Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're diving into something I think is pretty interesting: hydrogen water bottles.
Mm.
You've probably seen them around. They
Yep.
they promise to give your water like an extra boost of hydrogen. Sounds kind of sci-fi, right?
Yeah, it does.
So we're gonna break down like how they actually work and if those health claims actually hold water,
Oh,
so to speak.
yeah. I think it's really captured people's imagination. This whole idea of like taking something as basic as water
Yeah.
and sort of like enhancing it
Yeah.
at a molecular level, It's gonna
No.
look- It really speaks to that desire to like optimize everything, like every aspect of our health.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's looking for that edge, whether it's through
Yeah.
like, you know, diet or exercise or even like the water they drink. So let's get down to the science here. How do these bottles actually work? Like, how do they put more hydrogen in the water?
Okay, so it all comes down to a process called electrolysis.
Hmm.
And basically, these bottles, they have a system built in
Hmm.
that uses electricity to
Mm.
split water molecules,
Mm.
H2O, into their individual components, hydrogen and oxygen.
Okay, so it's like a mini chemistry lab happening inside the bottle. But how do they separate the hydrogen? So you're not just drinking like,
Of gas.
yeah, so there's a special filter that only allows the hydrogen to pass through, and the oxygen is released. So it's kind of like you imagine like a sieve that's only letting those tiny hydrogen particles through.
So it's like a super selective filter that creates hydrogen-enriched water. Now, you mentioned electrolysis, and that uses electricity. So do these bottles need to be plugged in all the time?
Well, they do have a rechargeable battery, much like your phone. So you charge it up, and then it powers the electrolysis process when you're ready to make your hydrogen water.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, walk me through using one of these bottles. What are the steps involved?
Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. You just fill the bottle with wire, and then you press a button to activate the electrolysis process. And then you just wait about 5 minutes. And there's usually an indicator light that lets you know when it's ready to drink.
So it's kind of like
Whoa.
pressing brew on your coffee maker.
Yeah.
But for hydrogen water,
Exactly.
it sounds simple enough. But if hydrogen's a gas, doesn't it just bubble out of the water right away?
Well, that's a common misconception. Some hydrogen does gradually escape, but it actually dissolves into the water, similar to how carbon dioxide does in like carbonated drinks. But for the best results, you want to drink the water within about 30 minutes.
Okay, so you've got like a window of time to enjoy your hydrogen-infused water. Before we get into like the potential health benefits, can we take a look inside one of these bottles? Like, what are the key components that make this whole thing work?
Absolutely. Imagine we're shrinking ourselves down and taking a peek inside. So first you have the main water container. That's where everything's happening. And then you have the electrolysis unit, kind of like the engine room. This is where the electricity is doing its work, splitting those water molecules.
Okay, so we've got the container
Okay.
and the engine room. What else is in there? Well, there's also the control circuit, which is like the brains of the operation, managing the whole process. And then, of course, we have that special filter I mentioned earlier that makes sure that it's only pure hydrogen that's getting infused into the water. And for safety, there are also pressure release valves just to prevent any buildup.
Wow. It's amazing how much technology is packed into these bottles. Like understanding those parts definitely makes the whole thing feel less mysterious. So to recap, we fill the bottle, press a button, electrolysis kicks in, we get hydrogen-enriched water. But how does that electrolysis process actually work, like step by step? What's happening at a molecular level?
All right, so let's break it down. You hit the button, and the control circuit sends an electrical current to the electrolysis unit, and that current flows through the water using these specially designed electrodes. Now, here's where it gets cool. The electricity interacts with the water molecules, breaking them apart into their hydrogen and oxygen components.
So we're essentially zapping the water to split it up, and that's where the special filter comes in to make sure only the hydrogen gets through.
Exactly. Think of it this way. The electrical current is creating that separation, and the filter is acting like a gatekeeper, only allowing the hydrogen to pass through and dissolve into the water.
That's a pretty neat way to visualize it. But now, the million-dollar question. Does all this scientific wizardry actually translate into like real health benefits?
I think that's what everybody wants to know, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to unpack that next. There's a lot of buzz around the potential benefits of hydrogen water.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive into the research and try to separate fact from hype.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about those potential health benefits. A lot of the excitement around hydrogen water revolves around hydrogen's potential as an antioxidant.
Right. Antioxidants are always a hot topic when it comes to health. But what makes hydrogen stand out from other antioxidants, like the ones you get in fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a uniquely tiny molecule. And that means that it can penetrate parts of the body that other antioxidants might not be able to reach as easily.
So it's like a little ninja warrior, slipping into all the hard-to-reach places.
I love that analogy. Yeah, and because of its size and structure,
Yeah.
it can actually selectively target the harmful free radicals in your body, leaving the beneficial ones intact.
Oh, so it's not just about neutralizing free radicals. It's about being precise about which ones it goes after.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so intriguing to researchers. And it's not just about antioxidants either. There's also emerging research looking into hydrogen's potential anti-inflammatory properties as well.
Anti-inflammatory, too. That's a powerful combination. So what kind of specific health benefits are researchers looking into?
Well, for one, there's been some promising research on hydrogen's potential to aid in athletic recovery. Some studies suggest that it could help reduce muscle fatigue and soreness after exercise.
Oh, wow. I can see how that would be appealing to athletes, like quicker recovery times.
Absolutely.
What else are they looking at?
Researchers are also investigating its potential benefits for things like energy levels, cognitive function, even skin health. It's a really diverse field of study.
It sounds like hydrogen water is making a splash in a lot of different areas. But are all these potential benefits backed up by solid evidence?
That's where we need to inject a note of caution.
Yeah.
While the preliminary research is exciting, a lot of these claims still require further scientific validation. We need more large-scale studies and long-term research to fully understand the potential benefits and any possible limitations.
So it's important to be realistic about what hydrogen water can and can't do. It's not a magic bullet, but it's definitely something worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely. And it's a great example of how science and technology are constantly evolving and opening up new possibilities for health and well-being.
Now, you mentioned earlier how this plays into our desire to optimize our health. So what are some of the broader societal trends that you see connected to hydrogen water's popularity?
Well, I think it definitely taps into this growing trend of what people are calling biohacking, where people are taking a more proactive and tech-driven approach.
Look into there.
Health. It's this idea of using technology and knowledge to optimize our bodies and minds.
So it's like we're becoming citizen scientists, experimenting with different methods to improve our well-being. Is that level of personal responsibility and health a good thing? Or can it go too far?
Yeah, that's a complex issue. I think on the one hand, it's empowering to have access to information and tools that allow us to make informed choices about our health. But on the other hand, it's important to avoid getting caught up in a cycle of constantly striving for perfection, which can lead to anxiety and potentially harmful practices.
So it's all about finding that balance, right? Being informed and proactive, but also realistic and discerning.
Absolutely. And it really highlights the importance of critical thinking. When it comes to health information, we're bombarded with so many claims and products these days. So it's crucial to do your research and consult with qualified healthcare professionals.
So before someone runs out and buys a hydrogen water bottle, what are some practical things they should consider?
Well, first and foremost, it's important to research different brands and models. Just like with any gadget, there are varying features and levels of quality and price points. So think about what's important to you in terms of bottle size, battery life, and ease of use.
So do your homework. Compare the different options before you make a purchase. What about maintenance? Is there anything special you need to do to keep these bottles clean and working properly?
Most bottles come with cleaning instructions that are relatively simple to follow. It's generally recommended to clean them regularly, similar to how you'd clean a regular water bottle, just to ensure hygiene and optimal performance.
Good to know. What about the taste? Is hydrogen water noticeably different from regular water?
Yeah, some people report a slightly different taste or texture, describing it as like smoother or softer. But taste is very subjective, and other people might not notice any difference at all.
So it might take some getting used to, but it's probably not going to be a drastic change. Now let's talk about cost. These bottles aren't exactly cheap, are they?
Yeah, it's true that they tend to be more expensive than traditional water bottles, but it's helpful to think of it as an investment in your health. If you're someone who values staying hydrated and is intrigued by the potential benefits of hydrogen water, it could be a worthwhile purchase.
It's about weighing the pros and cons and deciding if it aligns with your personal health goals and budget. Now, most people probably think of hydrogen water as something you just drink, but are there other ways to utilize it?
Absolutely. While drinking it straight is the most common method, some people get creative and use it for other things like brewing tea or coffee, cooking, even washing their faces.
Oh, wow. So you could have hydrogen-infused tea or cook your veggies with it. Are there any limits to what you can do with hydrogen water?
Well, maybe not unlimited, but there are some interesting developments beyond just drinking it. For example, you can now find hydrogen inhalers on the market.
Inhalers, what are those used for?
It's still an emerging area, but research is exploring its potential benefits for certain respiratory conditions.
That's fascinating, how this technology is evolving and expanding. It sounds like we've only scratched the surface of what hydrogen water can do. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the science behind these bottles to the potential benefits, and even some of the bigger questions surrounding health and technology. So what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think the key takeaway is that hydrogen water bottles represent a really interesting intersection of science, technology, and wellness. They offer a potential new way to think about hydration and health. But it's crucial to approach this technology with a critical and informed perspective.
Absolutely. It's about doing your own research, understanding the science, weighing the potential benefits, and ultimately deciding if it's something you want to incorporate into your own lifestyle. So after all that, what do you think? Would you try it? Knowing what we now know about hydrogen water.
I mean, it really is a personal choice. But if you're somebody who likes being on the cutting edge of wellness trends and you're open to trying new things, I think a hydrogen water bottle could be a fun experiment.
Yeah, I can definitely see the appeal. But what about somebody who's maybe a little hesitant? Maybe they're not quite sure if the science is all there yet, or, they're just on a tighter budget. What would you say to those folks?
Yeah, I think, there's no pressure to jump on the bandwagon. It's totally fine to wait and see how the research develops. I mean, after all, there are plenty of other ways to support your health, like a balanced diet.
And regular exercise, right? That's a good reminder.
Definitely. A hydrogen water bottle could be a nice complement to a healthy lifestyle. But it's not a substitute for those basics.
So it's all about finding what works best for you and your own individual needs. Well, we've explored a lot today, from the inner workings of these bottles to the potential benefits, and even some of those bigger questions surrounding health and technology.
Absolutely. We provide the insights, and you, the listener, get to decide how to apply them to your own life and journey.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our hydrogen water exploration. We hope you found it enlightening and thought-provoking. If you want to read more about what Oshimita is working on, visit our blog post at oshimita.com. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.